Hello, I'm Grandmaster Finegold, and today the lecture topic was determined because of a game I played yesterday in Blitz. And I was like, you guys don't know the rules, so that's going to help. That'll kill a lot of time. And you really don't know the rules. Actually, you don't. So sorry you don't know the rules. Some of the people in the NFL who play in the NFL don't know the rules. It's happened many times. Yeah. There's actually a lot of rules in games, and the ones that are difficult or never happen, people never think about, so they just don't know them. And they're like, yeah, I know them, and they move their eyes back and forth. When they do that, then... This rule, of course, is the one that happens the least in your games. En passant is a good answer. In fact, I think my answer is better, but it's really close. I think en passant happens more often than what I said. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, so what also never happens? It never happens, so you don't know. So I guess I'm right, because you can't even think of it.
It's like funny, weird stuff with the knights around castling. People are confused.
That's just made up. I mean, you're talking crazy. Say no to drugs, kids. Okay, the correct answer, obviously, and frankly, that was actually a hint, because Nakamura does it, is Underpromotion. You guys underpromote a lot? The correct answer is what's under promotion. That's the correct answer. Yeah. So, as you all know, you don't have to promote to a queen, but I recommend it. And in fact, if you didn't know what under promotion was, probably it wouldn't affect your chess game too much. Okay? En passant, if you don't know what that is, could affect your chess game. Could. Under promotion, I do it all the time because I'm kidding, because it doesn't matter. But sometimes I'm not kidding, like yesterday when I wasn't kidding. And occasionally it happens in tournament games, and it has to happen. Now, luckily, for me, in like 1990, I'm gonna say, I could be a year off, could be 89 or 91. I think it was 90. I was playing a tournament in Belgium, and we were checkmating each other, and I was down a lot of material. And my checkmate could be stopped, so I was going to lose. And my opponent put a pawn on the 8th rank, and it was a slow game, it was a tournament game. And we were trying to figure out, you know, he was looking for a piece, because he promoted. And we were in time trouble, and one of his friends was watching and was helping him, like, get a piece, which is illegal. And his friend was helping me, because he was giving him a piece where I would win. So that was funny. And the guy's like, no, I don't want that. Although this isn't a joke, he was German, so he probably was saying 9, but anyway, he was German. Anyway, so he promoted to a knight because it was check, and then I lost. If he promoted to a queen, the piece his friend was giving him, I would have mated him, because it wouldn't have been check. So his friend was actually helping me, but anyway, I lost. And the reason I said that was fortunate is I don't have that game, so I can't show you that. Yes. It was played in an open tournament, so it's not in a database, and I lost the score sheet before your grandfather was born, so I could never show you the game. I know it was an Alban counter, and we were mating each other. Anyway, so one of the funniest games I've ever lost to under promotion, I don't have it. Yes. Okay. I do have some other games I had with under promotions and other people's games. Usually, if you see an under promotion, it's in a puzzle. It's not in one of your games. And so you don't look for under promotion, so you don't solve the puzzle. And under promotion, since some of you don't know, but you won't tell me, is when you promote a pawn to the back rank, but you don't make it a queen. You make it a bishop, knight, or rook. Okay? And I guess 95% of the time, it's to avoid stalemate. And 5% of the time, it's because under promoting is actually better. When under promoting is better, it's 100% of the time a knight, unless it's stalemate. If it's not stalemate, it's a knight. Yeah, bishop and a rook aren't better than a queen to avoid stalemate. It's only to avoid stalemate. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to see all that. Now, one of the under promotion issues I have with my students, especially when I teach in a school, is a lot of you don't know the rules. So they make up rules, and then when I tell them they're wrong, they say that I'm wrong. So it's the most fun I've ever had. One of the rules people don't understand is they think you can only promote to something that's off the board, which is not true. So if they want to promote to a queen, but they already have a queen, They think, okay, what was captured so I can promote to that? That's not related to anything in chess. You can always promote to the 4 pieces, always. Queen, rook, bishop, or knight, always. So you could have 9 queens, which I've had. You could have 10 knights, 10 rooks, 10 bishops, which I've never seen. I've had a lot of knights, rooks, and bishops on my stream, but I've never had 10. I did.
Famous Fisher game with 4 queens.
Well, but that's because they both, yeah,
both got
yeah,
extra queens.
yeah. I mean, that's Petrosian, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, that's nothing. You watch my stream, and it's 4 queens. 4 queens is because they both had 2 queens. That's boring. Okay, now I recommend underpromoting when, especially for you guys, actually. In a lot of chess games, there's a mismatch. You're playing somebody, but it's not competitive. You're up 7 pieces or they're up 7 pieces. Okay, it happens a lot. And when that happens and nobody's resigning, what a lot of people do that's incorrect is they get a lot of queens. Yeah, don't do that. When you have 4 queens or 5 queens, all it does is make it more likely there's a stalemate. So you don't want to stalemate your opponent when you have 4 queens. So in that case, underpromoting might make sense. It makes more sense to checkmate your opponent. Now, the reason I'm doing this lecture is because of this. This happened yesterday. Did you see it, Raj?
What time was it?
I did a 6-hour stream, so I don't know.
If it was the early part, no. I only came in.
I think it was the late part. Okay, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So this game was very suspicious because it was a 1-minute game. And so I was pre-moving the opening, so I lost like all my pieces in the opening. Because I made like 7 moves in a row, then when it ended, I had no pieces left. Okay, so then I was fighting back, and I'm still down a rook, but okay, it's my move and I'm forking his rooks, and his knight's pinned and discovered check, and every move wins, right?
Yeah.
But now that you know the purpose of this lecture, you know what move I made. And by that I mean that you don't, but like Archer does, but like nobody else does. Raj.
It's got to be C1 knight.
Right, and what's funny is I have lots of promotions, okay? Now this will surprise a lot of you. So there's a lot of people in here, so don't faint, because you could fall on them and hurt them, okay? Are you ready for this? I'm not even gonna tell you. I'm gonna let you answer. This will be the most wrong answers in a row in chess history, as long as Archer doesn't answer. How many legal different promotions does Black have? No, not you, Archer. You have the right answer. You're gonna answer last.
It's got
You have to raise your hand to answer. Not you. Anybody? Come on, don't be so. You with the wrong answer.
2?
That you get a prize for the most wrong answer. Right, you couldn't have been more wrong unless you said 1 or 0. Then you'd be more wrong. Or negative. Next time say negative, that's funnier. Yeah. All right, and now the right answer, Archer.
4.
Wow, your answer is worse than hers.
Exactly.
Because of your rating, by rating point. All right, and Roz with the right answer.
12.
12, right. Okay, so there's 12 promotions you can make, right, Shruti?
I don't know.
Right, see, it's important to know the rules. That's why it's the under 1400 class. Okay, so you can promote the pawn here, here, or here, right?
Yeah.
And so 2 wasn't a good answer. Okay, because I just showed you 3. And then each promotion you have 4 choices. Queen, rook, bishop, or knight. So 4 times 3. I'll give him a minute. We'll check my texts.
Oh, I already know the answer.
You know 4 times 3?
12.
Wow. Okay. Now, there's an episode of Family Guy, I think, unless it was The Simpsons, and he's doing a similar problem, 4 times 3. So he calls like scientists, and they're doing experiments, and they tell him. Okay. Of those 12 moves, the 12 legal moves, one of them is checkmate. You guys see which one? Yeah, anybody? No?
C1.
Yeah, C1 equals knight. Okay, that's checkmate because the knight's checking the king, the rook's checking the king. That's called, well, what's it called when 2 pieces are checking you?
Double fork.
Double.
Double
Double check.
Double check. And when you're in double check, you have to move your king because I said so. And then the king can go here, but there's a bishop here. And then I did this last night in a 1-minute game. I played C1 knight. Luckily, I don't have auto promotion set on for other reasons, although that's a good reason. Okay. And then, so when I promote, it asks me which piece I want, and I click the piece. a lot of people, when they play Blitz chess, since it's 99% you make a queen, they just have it set to a queen. That way it always makes it a queen. If you don't want a queen, you have to like do stuff, which you can't do in a Blitz game. You can't be like typing stuff. So I don't have auto promotion on because I'm always under promoting and being silly. So I got to turn that off. So that was good, it was off. It's actually bad in Puzzle Rush when I want to make a queen. Okay, but anyway, so that's checkmate. And that's the only checkmate. If I play any other move, it's not checkmate. And I had less than 5 seconds left. So it's possible I wouldn't have won if I had, I mean, I would have, because I would have queened and then, but, okay. The reason other moves aren't checkmate is like, this isn't checking the king, so you can just take my rook. Yeah, and then I would go here if I see it, and I would win next move. Then next move's made. But, okay, you guys would just lose on time here. So. But you wouldn't lose on time if you made it and won, then you wouldn't lose on time. You'd be like, oh, mate, okay. So then, that reminded me of a funny story. In the Michigan Open, before you were born, I could win my opponent's queen. And I said, oh, I got a better idea, I'll checkmate them. So I made a move threatening checkmate, and there was no defense. So my opponent resigned. And then a guy walked up and said, why did you go there? You could have won his queen. And I said, but I checkmate him, that's better than winning the queen. And he said, no, it's not. You just didn't see it. Okay? And, okay. So that reminded me of this, because when this happened, somebody in the chat, because the chats are all geniuses, said, did you see that when you did that? What? No, I played C1 knight so I could lose on time. Like, there's 12 promotions. I played the one that's checkmate, that nobody would ever play, with 3 seconds left. And the guy's like, did you see that that was mate, or you get lucky? I wonder if that's the same guy. Probably not the same guy. The guy probably got hit by a bus. So. Okay, so I did that last night, and that's cool when you under-promote with checkmate. Now, the under-promotion wasn't necessary to win, although I might have been, because I might have lost on time if I didn't do that. Okay, now, I was thinking, when's the last times like I had under-promotion? Now, unfortunately, I would have to do about 30 minutes of research to find my favorite under-promotion, which you guys can do later. I played in the US Chess League and or Pro Chess League. I don't remember which one actually. I think it was the Pro Chess League, but I'm not sure. And it was about 2 years ago, and I was getting destroyed. I was gonna resign, I was losing, my usual. And then I figured out a way to get stalemated by giving all my pieces away. He didn't have to take them, but he did, so I got stalemated. And whenever I think of like giving your pieces away to get stalemated, and I think of under-promoting is almost always for stalemate reasons. So to me, they're very similar, okay? So these are games I've had in the last 8 years where these things happened. Okay, I have the black pieces. Now obviously black's doing well.
Yes.
I have a pawn up, my king's better, everybody's happy. Okay, my opponent played rook here winning my pawn, and I decided to make a queen, although not really. I decided to promote. Okay, so I checked, and he made the only legal move, and I checked, and he made the only legal move, and I checked, and he has 3 legal moves, but they're all the same, and I played here. Okay, now now my opponent's very high rated. Not as high rated as me, but he's really high rated. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a queen next move, and so he could check me, but I get out of the checks, and then he'll resign. Because when I make a queen, and I'm playing somebody who's my rating, they resign, because I'm a queen. You guys might not resign, but I wouldn't be suspicious about that. Well, he didn't resign, so I was like, wait a minute, why isn't he resigning? I get suspicious when people do things that are weird. And instead of resigning, he played check, and rook here. And I'm like, rook there? Why aren't you resigning? And then he's like, no talking. And I said, I'm a grandmaster, I can talk. And he was like, I'm sorry. Okay, well, if I'm playing somebody who I'm gonna win 1 million out of 1 million, and they resign a lot, and they don't resign, there's a reason. And the reason is? Stalemate. Now, actually making a queen does win. It does. But if I make a queen, okay, and his rook was off the board, it's stalemate. So what he would do is he would check me and hope that I take his rook, and then a stalemate, and then like this could be a draw because, you know, right? Now I can win because I can block with the queen. Like here, if he checks me, I could take with the queen, and then I could go here, and now I can block with the queen and win. So like here, I go here. It's not stalemate anymore, and I'm still winning. Okay, I knew that. Okay, so his trick didn't work, but I wanted him to know that I knew that he knew that I knew. Sir.
What about rook f3 check right here after you promote?
Then he didn't take it.
But isn't that stalemate?
No.
What am I missing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not you. I don't know what you're
Fair
saying. All right. Let's look at Raj's analysis. You're missing queen takes rook.
That's what I'm missing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, if I make a queen, he's going to keep checking me until I move my queen and unstalemate him. I don't want that to happen. I'm a very busy man. So I made it a rook. Now the king can go here, so there's never, ever, ever, ever a stalemate. And he was like, all right. He knew that I knew that he knew, so he resigned. Okay. But I was suspicious that he wasn't resigning. I was like, oh, stalemate. I teach that. I probably shouldn't stalemate somebody. Okay. So I underpromoted, because if you underpromote in a real game, normally that just avoids stalemate. That's the reason, usually. Okay. Now, I played this guy. Oh, actually, I was white. Okay. So I'm white, and I have 2 extra pawns, and this one's pretty close to promoting, although it can't move because it's pinned. So okay, I'll play b4, b5, b6, and white's doing pretty well. Okay, so I'm gonna win. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna win. Hooray for me. And he played, and I played b4, and I'm like, all right. Okay. And now he played a very, 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 very strange move, so I got suspicious. Because, you know, the guy's rated 2200, and he played the craziest move I've ever seen. So I was like, all right, well, what's happening here? Well, my pawn can't move, as I just explained. Remember when I explained that?
Yeah.
Okay. And he played queen here check, letting my pawn move, with double check, and getting lots of queens. So I was like, whoa, what's wrong with him? Okay, and then I was like, oh, that's what's wrong with him. So queening does win. There's nothing wrong with it. But the idea is if I make a queen, which is double check, and he makes the only legal move. Can I help you? What? I can't hear you. Okay. So he makes the only legal move, and then if I take his queen, it's stalemate. Yeah, it's always stalemate. Now, I wouldn't take his queen. I would do something else. But, okay. So I don't need like 7 queens to win. I need about 6. Okay. I don't need a lot of queens to win, so I made a rook. Now, here's what's funny about making a rook, is I'm avoiding stalemate, except I'm not avoiding stalemate, because it's the same stalemate. So if I take his queen, it's stalemate. Okay, so, but okay, I'm trying, but okay. And I knew that, but I wanted to have the least amount of firepower for the least amount of stalemates, because I don't want to stalemate him. I don't need 9 queens to win, although it doesn't hurt. Okay, when he played here, I played queen c7 check. Now it's impossible to stalemate him. I have to try really hard. So he resigned. If he goes here, I could take his queen and he can go here. So, but yeah, underpromoting was safer because I just don't want to have a lot of queens. It was unnecessary, but I needed to do it so that he would know, like, all right, Ben sees the stalemate is coming. Okay. And usually when your opponent does something really weird and they're not rated -1,000,000, they have a reason. Sometimes it's because, you know, they're just not good, so they don't see that you can queen. But when I have respect for my opponent, I'm like, why do you do that? Oh, there's a stalemate trick. What's funny is, I didn't show you earlier in the game because it wasn't related to the lecture. He already played a stalemate trick already, but it wasn't under promotion, so I can't show you. It'd be against company policy. So that was actually, he tried 2 stalemate tricks in 1 game. Yeah, but it was getting stale, his tricks, because I already saw it. Yeah. Okay, those were actually my games in tournament games. All right. Now, one of the most famous under promotions, since this is the name of the class, is a game between Nakamura and Kramnik. And actually, Nakamura has another famous under promotion, which I'll show you, which is just silly. This one is not silly. This one is very serious, okay? So this was in the Olympiad, and it was the US versus Russia. In Soviet Russia, chess under promotes you, right? Right, Trudy?
I don't know.
Trudy, like, what? Okay. So in this position, black played king takes rook, because that makes sense. Okay. So black's pawns are stopped, and white still has this pawn. However, if white loses that pawn, white's not going to win. But if white promotes the pawn, then they'll win. So it's very important what to do the next few moves. And so Nakamura played something very tricky, then Kramnik played something very tricky, then Nakamura played the trickiest. Okay? And it's really weird because usually tricks are for kids. So that was so strange. White played the most obvious move.
Yeah.
Anyone?
C7?
C7.
C7. Yeah. Notice the bishop is protecting that.
Yeah.
So that looks like the black resigns. Okay? But no, if you guys had the white pieces and you didn't know this lecture, you wouldn't do too well. Okay? Kramnik said, I'm Kramnik. Okay? He's Kramnik. Now, what's funny about this is, why is that funny? It is. The guy that I just played, Tommy Ulrich, he's very, very, very tall, as is Vladimir Kramnik. So I guess when you're super tall, you play for stalemate. You see the board better, I don't know. Okay. Man, Tommy Ulrich's really tall. All right, Kramnik obviously is tall, you all know that. Okay. And Kramnik played e2, because if white's gonna queen, then black should queen, right?
Yeah.
And if black plays taking the knight with check, then black should win. So the most obvious move for white is to take the pawn. That's the most obvious move. And that does not win, now the game is a draw. What's the drawing move for black? This did not happen. How does black draw here? Why did black give his e-pawn away? How does black stop this pawn from promoting? Anyone? No, too hard for the class.
F3.
That's your check, yeah.
Never play f3. That's right. f3 check. Notice how it's check because Karen said so. And it's a discovered attack on that pawn. But you gotta get a check. Okay, then you know you don't win. Okay? And by the way, before you were all born, I was living in Belgium and I was playing in Belgium. I had a bishop and a knight against a bishop and I didn't want to, with no pawns, like here. And I tried, and trying was the first step to failure. Like, I would never win. I didn't realize you couldn't win. Like, you can legally win, but your opponent has to really help you, and he didn't help me. Okay. So it looks like e2 is a draw,
Yeah.
but you're in this class, so you know what white did here. Well, Raj does. What did white do here for not Raj? Remember the class you're in.
Somebody whispered it.
Yeah. It's whisper quiet. You.
The pawn goes to c8.
Yeah. And which one do you want?
Queen.
You want a queen in the under promotion class?
No, wait, I don't.
You.
Knight?
Yeah. If you make a queen and I go here, I don't think white's gonna win. I think black's gonna win. Yeah.
Should have made a knight.
Yeah. Well, he did. Right. He made a knight. Okay. Bob Seeger approved. Notice it's check, because it's check. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you take the pawn. So now we have 3 pieces against 1. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know if it's a win, and I'm pretty sure it's a win because the bishops are on opposite colors. If the bishops are on the same colors, it's probably a win, but it's probably hard because your opponent can defend the diagonal with his bishop, so what's your bishop gonna do? Now they can't. Now your bishop is free to go. And those pawns can be captured pretty easily, and if you trade, let's say, for example, I take this pawn and you take my knight with your bishop and I have bishop and knight against king. For these guys, that's not hard. For you guys, it's no comment. But okay, bishop and knight versus king is not hard for these guys. So basically, Nakamura has to win these pawns, which is easy because he has like 7 pieces to nothing. And then, I've never seen bishop and 2 knights against bishop. I've never seen it in my life. But I think with the opposite color bishops, that makes it easier to win because my white bishop can do stuff. Also, if these were on the same color and they were traded, and you had 2 knights, then you wouldn't win. Although you could against the pawns, but not these pawns. So Kramnik kept playing. Well, I don't blame him. Gotta, yeah. But okay, Naka's gonna win those pawns, so yeah. Yeah, in fact, he didn't take this pawn because, I mean, for the reason we talked about basically the whole class. If black's bishop is gone, that's stalemate. And also, what's that pawn do? Now, this is also a grandmaster trick that's too hard for this class, and for some grandmasters. If you're completely winning, and the way to win is to take your opponent's last pawn and then mate them, which is sort of like here. You don't need to take that pawn. It actually makes more sense in today's time controls to not take it until the end. The reason is, and some of you don't know this, at the top level, almost every grandmaster game has a 30-second increment. And you guys don't know what that means, but it means when you make a move, you're given 30 seconds extra. That's just the way grandmaster chess is played now. Okay. So if you made 30 random moves very quickly, you would get 30 seconds times like how many moves you made, which is, you could get 5, 10, 15 extra minutes. So instead of taking the pawn and the 50 move rule starts, because there's no captures or pawn moves, you could capture the pawn after making 40 random moves, and now the 50 move rule starts, but you've added all that time on your clock. So actually, you shouldn't take that pawn until later if you need to take that pawn, but that's very technical, and it doesn't matter much, but it could. If you had 2 minutes left, it would make a lot of sense to make 40 moves in like 1 second. Then you wouldn't have 2 minutes anymore, you'd have a lot of time, right? You'd have 20 minutes. So that, now you can make, okay. But that pawn doesn't really help black. Black's king is pretty bad. Yeah. That king is getting checkmated. For example, let's pretend my king was here, right? And then that's checkmate. The black pawn's not doing anything. So who cares about that? Okay. Yeah. So he's going to checkmate the king without taking the pawn. He's like, whatever, I don't need that. Yeah. Yeah, that king's not doing well. Yeah, he's like, I don't care about your pawn, I'm going to checkmate you. And Kramnik said, no talking. Yeah. Now, for example, if you go here, I go check and then checkmate. For example. Yeah. So here he resigned because the king's no good. Yeah. If the king was in the center, he'd still get checkmate, just take longer. Anyway, what's funny about that game is if white did not underpromote to a knight, he would not have won. That was the only way to win. And it was a team tournament, and the US beat Russia. So that was like, that's a known game. It's a pretty famous game. Yeah. Also, Kramnik's pretty good. So, yeah, both sides were promoting, but by underpromoting with check, Naka was able to win. And most of you forgot what happened. I don't blame you. So, yeah. So after E2, he played C8 equals knight check, the only move that wins. Because, again, if he takes the pawn, check, and he loses his pawn on C7, and he can't win then. Yeah. And if he queens, then he loses. So, yeah. And I'm sure when he played C7, he saw that. Yeah, I wonder if C7 is the only way to win here. Because if black plays king D6, king C7, I don't see how white wins that. Black's got a lot of passed pawns. Probably that's the only way to win. Yeah. Harsh. Okay, and we'll make fun of Naka later. All right. Now, these are 2 puzzles I've shown for the last 30 years. And they're just under promotion puzzles, obviously. So this is the easy one. The hard one I'll let you guys do. If you've seen the hard one, it's not very hard. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty hard. So this one, if I make a queen, that's stalemate.
Yeah.
Now, you have to change the way you think. Now, on The Simpsons, when Lisa got her first iPhone, but they called it something else to avoid lawsuit, she got her bill, and she thought it was a gift, but it was a bill. Okay. And so the bill was thousands of dollars. So she went to the Apple headquarters and said, how about not charging me? Your motto is think differently. And he said, our actual motto is no refunds. Okay. Anyway, so in chess, you have to think differently. And usually people don't do that. They just, whatever they think, that's it. Okay. Now, I would, if you were my student, I would say, like, take your opponent's pieces. And you're like, oh, okay. They take their pieces and you win. And I'm like, oh, I did good. I'm a great teacher. However, if you're up 5 pieces, why are you taking a pawn? And you're like, well, you told me to take everything. And I'm like, ugh. Okay. When you win a queen and a rook and a bishop and a knight, and the guy has 1 pawn left, why are you taking it? I just made him. Okay. So actually, you don't want to take all the pieces, because when you take all of them, what's more likely?
Stalemate.
Stalemate. If they have a pawn that can move, and you have 9 pieces, you're not going to stalemate them because they're moving their pawn. Okay. And I see that a lot. I'm watching a kids tournament. One kid has like 3 pawns, and their kid has everything. And the kid's taking the 3 pawns. And I'm like, I guess he wants to stalemate. I don't know. Okay. So here, black has just a king. You can see that.
Yes.
When your opponent has nothing, you have to think differently and give them no refunds. Okay. And when your opponent has just a king, don't stalemate them. That's all you have to think about. You're not going to lose to a king. Well, maybe you would, but I could beat some people with just a king. They're in my camps. But, okay, so if you make a queen, that's stalemate. And you should be thinking about stalemate. You shouldn't do that. Now, there's 3 moves that win. King d6 and king d7 win. There's not going to be a stalemate, and then I can queen later. But there's a quicker way to win based on the name of this class.
I know.
You with the right answer.
Promote the pawn to c8, but then make the pawn a knight.
I was waiting for knight, bishop, or rook. And I was going to call Vegas, but I didn't want to place a bet. It's Sunday. No.
Knight.
Yeah. Now, the problem with Shrudi's answer, there's a problem, is you cannot legally win. You can't. A knight can't beat a king. You couldn't set a checkmate up no matter how bad black played. Well, I guess I would win in a chess camp, with black too. So, you can't make a knight, because a king and a knight don't beat a king. You can't. Okay? And a king and a bishop don't beat a king. What does that leave?
Rook.
Makes a rook. Okay. Now, a rook is in stalemate, and in fact, that exact square, that's my game I showed you earlier where I made a rook. It was the king was here, and the rook was there, and I had a rook here. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Okay. And then, obviously, this is the only legal move, and then checkmate. So, making a rook is actually quicker than making a queen. If you want to make a queen, then you would just play king here, and then you'd make a queen. Then it wouldn't be stalemate. Then you could win with a queen. Yeah? No question? Okay. So, under promoting, in general, is to avoid stalemate. And now that I've told you that, now I'll show you something else. And this is one of my favorite puzzles. Okay. And this is just a known puzzle. I don't know when I saw it first, probably 15 years ago. Okay. So black's up a rook, and normally we take the rook, you take, it's queen and 2 pawns against queen and 2 pawns. You can't win a pawn because you get checkmated. So you don't win the pawn, then it's really, really drawn. Queen and 2 versus queen and 2 on the same side. That's like the most drawn position ever. Okay, you'd still lose, but it should be a draw. Okay. So the puzzle is white to play and win. And playing the normal way doesn't win, so we have to get no refund. I mean, not no refunds, think differently. Yeah. Luckily, you're in the right class to find the answer.
Queen a7.
Do you agree? Okay. Yeah. And one thing I tell my students, when you're doing a puzzle and you're like, what? Look for the move that's probably the worst. If it's the best, then it's not really a puzzle. You just play the best when you win. So the move that looks the worst is this, I think, right? That gives your queen away.
Yes.
This is worse, but let's not split hairs. Okay, right. Black has 1 legal move, right? Okay. And now you know the name of the class. So.
C8 to a knight.
Yeah, you take the rook and make a knight. It's check, you take the queen, and obviously white's winning. Yeah. And that's the only way to win. That's a funny puzzle. Yeah. And so you're actually doing other tactics which are too complicated for this class. we're moving the guard and so forth. Queen sacrifice, rawr. Okay, so actually, you're under promoting. It has nothing to do with stalemate. It has to do with promoting to a knight because it forks a king and a queen. That's usually in puzzles. When you're playing a game, you're not promoting to a knight and forking a king and queen. You could. It's just it's so rare. It's like not going to happen. In puzzles, it's always happening. They're always doing that. They're always promoting to a knight and forking things and discovered mate and all that. Okay, so that was a pretty cool problem. All right. Now, this is the funniest, and we're going to take a long time on this because we have a lot of time left. This happened about a year and a half ago, and it was a Blitz game. And the whole game, Nakamura was trying to win, and he finally was. Okay? So it was a drawn rook and pawn end game, but it was a Blitz game, so Mamedyarov didn't have a lot of time on his clock. So, when you don't have time on your clock and you're worse, that's not good. Okay, and obviously black is better. Black's up a pawn, and even though white can take the pawn, you can see which pawn is closer to promoting. I have to change my terminology. I usually say queening, but it is promoting. Okay, so we got to watch it in my class. 'Cause under promotion class, I can't say queening. Obviously, black is closer to promoting than white is, and obviously black's king is awesome and white's king is horrible. Okay, so black has very good winning chances, maybe winning, maybe drawn. Normally, in a Blitz game, when it's like, oh, if you play perfectly, you'll draw, you're not going to play perfectly. It's a Blitz game. You're going to move quick and oops. Okay. So, practically speaking, black's almost always going to win, whether it's winning or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mamedyarov took the pawn. And I tell my students the same thing for both sides. In endgames that are king and pawn or rook and pawn, this is rook and pawn, both sides in both of those endings want their king in front of the pawn. So black's king is in front of the pawn, so he's very happy. And you could imagine if the king was somewhere else, like here, okay? Then white would want his king in front of the pawn, right? Then white's really happy. So black's really happy. Because, yeah. Sort of like when Vincent opened the briefcase and Jules said, "Are we happy?" And he took the cigarette and said, "Yeah, we happy." Remember that? Okay. I'm sure the kids do. Right? You remember it?
No, random comment.
Pulp Fiction. Did you see Pulp Fiction?
I was busy.
What?
It's a draw. I mean,
This is a draw. Oh, I knew you.
No, black's winning. Black's winning.
Why'd you say it was a draw? You
Because I got
misspoke?
confused.
Oh, you got, yeah.
White is losing with that.
Right, yeah. So white's losing anyway, but if it was a draw, he would still win, because they both have like 10 seconds on their clock. Okay. Now, I was telling you want your king in front of the pawn, and so if you want your king in front of the pawn, then the other guy wants his king in front of the pawn, right? So he played rook there and said, "Move your king away from my pawn." And Mamedyarov said, "No talking." Okay. And he moved his king away from the pawn. Okay. And black has to promote his pawn, so, okay. And everybody's happy. Okay. So, Nakamura, I think correctly, but maybe not, the way for white to draw, let's say white sacrifices the rook for the pawn. Somehow that happens. That would be a win because black is up a rook, but white can draw if white gets his king up and then his pawn, and then, it looks good, right? And Nakamura's like, "Don't do that." But instead of saying don't do that, he just didn't let him do it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and Raj is like, "No, every move wins, and that's no good." Okay, right. Yeah, I can read his mind. So that stops the white king from coming up. So when white does sacrifice his rook for the pawn, that white king, that's nothing. That king's not going to help the h-pawn. Okay, so Nakamura's pretty happy. He stops the h-pawn, and he stops white's king. That's why in Blitz chess, he's like 5 million rated. Moves in 1 second until does everything right. Okay, until later. Okay. Okay, rook f5. And Mamedyarov's like, "Look, I'm going to take your pawn, and if you move your pawn, now your rook's not doing what it was doing, so I can do that Ben Finegold stuff." And Nakamura's like, "Why'd you want to play like Ben Finegold?" And he's like, "Ben Finegold crushed me. Don't you see that game? You know what I'm talking about."
Online.
Yeah, the Pro Chess League. Come on.
Yeah, okay.
Online. No, Mamedyarov walked in here and I crushed him. Okay. So he played f3, and that's why Nakamura lost. Never play f3. Okay. Although black is winning now, but okay. And king d3. So everything I said would happen has happened. White's going to move his king up, and then both sides will sacrifice their rook for the pass pawn. It'll be a draw. Well, black's winning because this pawn's about to queen, and that pawn's not going to queen. That pawn's nowhere near queening. Okay, now Nakamura made a very weird move, I think, here. I think it was here. Yeah, king e1 is horrible, okay? But it's a blitz game, so the truth hurts. Yeah, and I think that throws away the win. I think very simple win, if I remember right, is king g1. I think like this was the win. Here, check, here, here. Threatening, double, discovered, triple mate, and then here, that's it. I think that was the win. Yeah. Okay, so Naka played king e1. That was weird. Rook check, and he's like, oh, all right, never mind. Okay, king f1's also bad. Rook f5. And then king g2. And see, you don't want to play king g2, you want to play king g1. So he could have played king g2 in the starting position instead of moving his king around, confusing you. The reason is, after king e3, check here, if the white king was on if the black king was on g1, which it was in the variation I showed you. What did black play in this position? Do you remember? In this position, I showed you. Remember what black played?
Rook h2.
Rook h2, defending his pawn and threatening discover, double, triple, and Salchow, right? Okay. I don't want to talk about. I could make a joke, but the guy just died. So, do they know why he died? Yeah, I assume it was suicide. All right. So the king's on g2, so that doesn't work, right? This is a draw now. It doesn't need an engine. This is a draw. So Nakamura messed it up. He played perfect. He had 10 seconds on his clock. He didn't play perfect. Okay. Now, you should be confused right now, but you're so confused that you're not confused. If you were like clear-headed, you'd be confused. The reason you should be confused is, you should say, well, wait a second, this is an under-promotion lecture. Nobody's under-promoting here, so what are you showing us this for? Okay, and I actually know what happened. And when it first happened, we thought Nakamura was just being stupid, because that's his reputation. But that's not what happened. Nakamura wasn't being stupid. Nakamura played a really, really bad move here. This is a dead, dead, dead draw. Every move draws. You can't not draw. Okay? You could make a queen, or you could take this pawn. Either way draws immediately. The immediate draw. Take the pawn, draw. If you take the rook, then the black wins, right? Okay. And if you make a queen, okay, and then that's a draw. Okay. Now what happened was, when it happened live and I was watching it live, I thought Nakamura was like being silly. That's not why he did it. He was playing a blitz game and had very little time, and when he promoted, he thought every promotion drew, and it does. So he picked the piece that was the closest. Like if the queen's over there, and I got 5 seconds on my clock, I could lose. But if the piece is right there, I promote like in 1 second. So that's what happened. Unfortunately for Naka, there was a knight available, and Naka likes promoting to a knight, as you saw in this game with Kramnik. No, they forgot. So he made a knight. Okay? And if it's black's move, knight g3 check wins. And so it's really obvious that we're going to play rook takes knight, rook takes pawn, draw. Okay. Now, to me, this is super genius. To me, you guys will be like, this is stupid, it's not super genius. If I was white, I would be like shocked at him making a knight, and then I would take the knight and the game would be a draw. And Mamedyarov had the wherewithal to be like, all right, I got 5 seconds, but let's think about this. And he played a better move than rook takes knight, a much better move. So like, I wouldn't find this move. I can't even believe he found this move. Because you're not expecting the guy to make a knight, and you have no time on your clock. So how do you like just change up and make a good move here? How did he do it? What's better than rook takes knight? It's actually much better.
Check.
Well, that's not a move, that's just a word.
Rook G5.
No, rook g5, I play knight g3 check.
Rook
And
F2.
then rook f2 check. It is check, but it's the other check. That's much better than rook takes knight. Now black's fighting for a draw. For example, if you go here, white wins, and white plays rook takes rook. You can't stop that pawn. So he played rook f2 check, black has to play king g1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you take the knight with check, then you defend your pawn. And this rook f2 check was also really good, because king g3 loses to rook check and rook takes rook again. It's still losing. Yeah. So instead of playing rook f5, king here, he checks first and then plays rook f5. This is a draw, but this is very hard to draw. And he had like 5 seconds left, so he didn't draw it. So an ending where black was much better pressing to win, and then was winning, and then he messed it up and it was a draw, then he underpromoted as like a half joke and it was easier to underpromote. He didn't see rook f2 check. When he underpromoted, he thought rook takes knight, rook takes pawn, draw. If he made a queen, the normal move, then you take the queen and then draw. Okay. So he made a knight, check was brilliant, check on f2 again was brilliant, and this is a draw, but you got to play really well to draw, and with seconds on his clock, he did not. So, yeah, moving his rook back and forth there wasn't good. That just let white move his pawn up. And then rook h4 is, yeah. This is very funny. It's very counterintuitive to move your king here. That looks really dumb. That's the right move. Because you can't let white's king go up. And white's king can't go up. So actually this still draws. This really stupid way of playing. But he didn't want to do that, so yeah, now he's actually lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he resigned. I wonder if Mamedyarov would have underpromoted to a rook. So Nakamura won one of the most famous games ever by beating Kramnik in an Olympiad by underpromoting the only way to win and beating Russia. The US beats Russia a lot in the Olympiad. No. Now we do. We can now, but not then. And we actually beat Russia in the, well, you guys always obviously know this, in Dubai 1986. Right? That was a joke, because yeah. The US beat Russia or Soviet Union, because Kasparov was playing Saruhan, and Kasparov didn't want to draw Saruhan, and didn't want the match to be a tie. So Kasparov went too far, and Saruhan won, and the US beat the Soviet Union. Because Kasparov's like, Saruhan, kidding me? And they got a draw on rook ending, and Kasparov lost it, trying too hard to win. And so the Soviet Union lost. And then, truth hurts. Soviet Union broke up because of that game. Anyway, and then this is even funnier. The other one is very serious, and this one's not, but I mean, it's more famous because it's so silly. Like, he made a knight because, like, the knight was there. So you can't really be silly in chess and be like, everything's the same, because it's not. And in the other examples I showed you, if you said, why did he underpromote? I would give you some reason or two reasons. Why did he underpromote there? I mean, he thought everything was a draw, so it didn't matter, and the knight was closer than the queen. Not sure those are good reasons, but I mean, the reasons. Okay. So that underpromotion did not work. So when you do underpromote, it should be to avoid stalemate, or in very rare cases, making a knight is checkmate. So making a bishop or a rook is for avoiding stalemate. If you make a queen, it's stalemate. A bishop and a rook is not stalemate, but you're still winning. Making a knight is your knight's forking 7 things, or it's checkmate because it's double check, like in my game. That had none of those reasons, so he lost. A position you couldn't lose. I mean, he couldn't lose. So, yeah, Mamedyarov was pretty happy when he walked off. But I can't believe he found rook f2 check, because he obviously didn't think he was going to make a knight. So, like, to just get in the position and figure out what to do is amazing. Like, I would just take the 9 and then it'd be a draw. It is still a draw. So that's the under promotion class. And remember, you always have 4 choices. Exactly. You can make a queen, rook, bishop, or knight. What's on the board doesn't matter. Now, if you've been to our chess center and you've been in the rooms with the chess sets, what did you notice? Well, you noticed nothing. But what should you have noticed?
There was a queen on the side.
Yeah, see, he did notice. Yeah. On every chess set, usually, it should be, there's an extra queen for each side, like there, so that, and often when you buy a chess set now, it comes with extra queens. And if you're playing in a rated tournament, I was going to say this when the lecture started, but I forgot. When you're playing in a rated tournament, you can't do your nonsense you do when you play for fun. You're not allowed to. You do anyway, but you can't do that. The nonsense when I was a kid was you got a queen, there was no queen, because it was on the board already, so you turned a rook upside down, okay? Today's nonsense, and I don't understand this, kids like to do it, is they take 2 pawns on the side and put them there. Okay, if you're playing in an actual tournament, no, you don't do any of that. You stop the clock and get the director, and he'll find you a queen, or whatever you need. Okay, you can't just like do what you want. And here's a rule you're not gonna like. In a rated tournament, if you're like, oh, I'll just turn a rook upside down, and it's a queen, hit the clock, it's a rook. And it's upside down, and it's a rook. It's a rook. So the fact that it's upside down doesn't matter. The fact that you want it to be a queen does not matter. It's a rook. So the guy can stop the clock, the director comes, he'll turn it back to a rook, and you'll keep playing. So don't do that. When you promote in chess, you can't just be like, well, okay, I don't have an extra queen, let's use the remote control. Now, if you're playing for fun, you can do what you want. But when you get a tournament, you gotta like put the actual piece there. You can't be doing. Now, there's a very famous example, Karpov-Kasparov, and Kasparov promoted, and there was nothing there, and hit the clock, and it was a pawn there. And like Karpov like took some little piece and like put it there for him, and Kasparov's like, what? And the arbiter came, and you can't tell your opponent what piece it is. Yeah.
Under those rules, was that a loss? Illegal?
No. But it was a slow game. Yeah, illegal moves don't lose in the slow games. Yeah. In a blitz game, yes. In fact, Topalov lost to Nakamura about 2 years ago. He played like D1 equals queen. The pawn was there, hit the clock. With a pawn there, that's illegal. He lost. It's like making an illegal move in a blitz game, like another illegal move. And the game, he was winning. That actually happened to Rex. Rex Singfield, who owns the St. Louis Chess Club, was playing, and they were filming it, and it was one of those weird events they have. And he did that, so he lost. Yeah, I mean, he forfeited him. Yeah, he couldn't afford a queen. He's like, where's it? Yeah.
It happened here at one of your first tournaments.
I deny everything. Yeah. Yeah, when you promote, it's not like you're playing at home with your friends. You gotta like put the pieces on the board. You can't just be like, it's a pawn. No, it'll be something else. Yeah? No? Yeah. So when you promote or under promote, now, when I was in St. Louis, there was an expert named Alex Virgilisov. I'm pronouncing his last name the American way. If I pronounce it the correct way, you would all die, because he'd be like, I can't handle that. Anyway, he's from Kazakhstan originally. But anyway, after 3 years of something, I said, why do you do that? It took 3 years for me to ask him. When he promoted in a blitz game, he said queen, then he put a queen there and hit the clock. And at some point I was like, why do you say queen when you put a queen there? And he says, you have to, right? And I was like, what? He thought when you promote, you're required to speak. And I'm like, well, you put a queen there. Like, that's a queen. He said, don't you have to say queen also? I'm like, you have to say queen? Wow. I said, no. And he's like, oh. That's why for years he said queen and would put a queen there. And I'm like, nobody else says queen and puts a queen there. They could say queen, and some people are nice and replace the queen for them. I would recommend not being nice. But you could like help your opponent, but why are you helping your opponent? So, I wouldn't do that, yeah. All right, so remember, when you're playing me, and you can make a queen and beat me, under promote so I can win. When you're playing me. Yeah. Right? No? All right. Any questions? All right, see you guys in the 12:30 class, plus tax, with no tax.